Morning, everybody. How was your weekend? I hope you had an absolutely beautiful, relaxing, enjoyable weekend. I know that we had a very nice one. We really did. We got to go see my uncle who turned 87, and I haven't seen him since I was a little girl. And I got to see some of my cousins who I haven't seen in so long, and it was just absolutely beautiful. It was so great getting to be with that side of the family who I missed them all so much. So it was really, truly a treasure. And then yesterday I got to, me and my husband actually had my sister-in-law and brother-in-law over, so that was pleasant. And we got to have some good food and great company, and I was pretty excited about that too. So all in all, we had a wonderful weekend. Didn't get a whole lot of unpacking done because I got to spend a lot of time with family and with my husband. But it's a new week, and I'm excited for what God's going to be bringing my way. So I'm all in. Today I want to talk to you. I was reading, it was just this little book. It's called Small Miracles of Love and Friendship. It's really kind of comforting and uplifting, full of warmth. And I was reading this really, I think it was a one-page story, and it was about this lady who was getting ready to go see her mama in her retirement home. And her garden was in full swing, and she had beautiful, big, lush purple gladiolus, or however you say them. I'm not very much of it. I'd have to ask my sister-in-law. She's the garden wizard. Gladiolas. That's it, I think it's called. Anyway, so she had these big, beautiful gladiolas, and she decided to cut 3 big stalks off to take to her mom in the retirement home, in which she did. She headed to the retirement home. She was almost to her mom's door. And then at the last minute, she decided to ask the lady where Mrs. Farmer's room was. This was a lady that used to go to church, and she usually sat right in front of her in the pew in front of her. Isn't that funny how we're kind of creatures of habits? We have our own little spots in church that we always sit, correct? Somebody new comes to church and they're sitting in the spot you're normally sitting in, and we're like, oh my gosh, you're sitting in my spot. It's not very nice of us people. But anyway, so she asked for where Mrs. Farmer's room was, and because she had heard that Mrs. Farmer was there, and actually Mrs. Farmer was ill. And so the nurse led her down this hallway, and she didn't really even know Mrs. Farmer. She didn't know her except for what she had seen her in church. All she remembered is Mrs. Farmer sitting in front of her and always had these big, beautiful hats. Big red hats, these gorgeous hats, this old lady. Well, when she walked in her room, the lady was very kind of lifeless in bed, and very, she was just laying there. And she looked up, and she seen the lady walk in her room with these flowers, and she got this big expression, and she's like, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you for remembering my birthday. She's like, that's the only thing that I asked for today. And she gave the flowers to Mrs. Farmer instead of to her mama. Then Mrs. Farmer hadn't had many visitors, and she didn't know it was Mrs. Farmer's birthday. And yet Mrs. Farmer got exactly what she'd asked God for. She wanted some flowers, and she wanted somebody to visit on her birthday, and that's what she got. So, I think sometimes we have to remember that we clearly have ways set before us that we want to do. We have things we want to do. We have our to-do list, don't we? Every day, we have our to-do list of things that we want to get done, and we have, all intentions of getting everything done on our list that we have planned to get done, and we start off our day, and it just reminded me, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. It just reminded me that many times we're on course, but God takes us off for a reason. We really need to stay in tune with the directions that He's asking us to go. And even when they feel kind of scary or off course, we have to follow Him. And many times, and you'll find when you follow God and you're being led by Him, He does ask us to do things that we don't want to do. He asks us to do a lot of things that we don't want to do. He asks us to do things that do not feel natural to us. He wants us to step out. He wants to be better than we were the day before. He wants us to learn. And once we learn, And we know better. He wants us to do better. And we know we're never going to be perfect until we're in heaven with him. We know that. We know that we're faulty people. We make mistakes, and praise Jesus, he still loves us. Thank you, Jesus, for everything he did for us, that we still have a way home, thanks to him, right? So, but it is important to listen and to be led. And when you're feeling like, oh, I need to go this direction. She was going to get ready to turn left to go into her mom's room, but she ended up going on down the hall, asking the nurse where Mrs. Farmer's room was, and turning right, and making Mrs. Farmer's day. That's what it's all about, is loving other people and doing things for other people and prospering other people and caring for other people. I mean, this life is so very harsh, and it's so hard. You know, I really don't even watch the news anymore, and a lot of people think that's very odd. And it's not that I'm immune to what's going on in our world. At time in the morning, sometimes I do watch the Today Show. I almost really don't even consider that to, that's about the only thing in news that I watch. Sometimes is the Today Show in the morning, but mostly I watch that for entertainment purposes while I'm drinking my coffee. So God makes me aware of the things I need to be aware of and the things I need to pray for in this world. And I understand we're in some terrible situations. But I also know that you can't read the Bible without reading terrible, terrible situations going on and how God led those people through. And I have all faith that, when you put your faith and your trust in the Lord, he's got control of it. We really don't. And whatever God's telling us to do or leading us to do is the way we must follow. P.S. a serviceman or woman is going to follow differently than the way I follow. People are going to follow differently, but they have to do it in the way that God asks them and calls them to serve, right? I have total faith that God's going to see us through, and I also have total faith that if the worst was to happen, that I would be home with him. So I just put my faith with him, and not trying to get off topic here. I'm really trying not to get off topic, but what I was going to say is I really don't watch the news. I try to fill my soul and my spirit with joyful, beautiful things. There's so many things in this earth that causes you to get sidetracked or hurt or start feeling depressed or getting sad or you're in pain, and there are a lot of situations that are happening around us. So what we do have control of and what we do put in our mind and what we do watch on TV and what we do listen to on the radio and what we do read, what we read, make it something prosperous, make it something beautiful. Try to put as much joy in your heart as you possibly can. Try to listen to beautiful things that are going to fill you up, and just do what you physically can do to make your life a little bit happier, because you deserve that. You really do. We have a lot of trauma or a lot of stress and crisis in our world, and we probably always will. And I know reading the Bible we always have. And what we can do, we need to do. And what we have no control of, we need to let that go. We need to pray for others that do have control over things that we don't. We need to trust that God has it under control and love him and know that he's got our back. So back to what I was originally talking to, when you're walking down a path and you're feeling led and tugged to go a different direction, follow the direction God's calling you to do. If you're getting a need, a feeling, a tug to head this direction, then go and know that he is with you and follow him. Here, I want to read a couple scriptures to you before you go. I want to go to Proverbs. Proverbs 2, 5 through 6. And it says, trust the Lord with all your heart and don't depend on your own understanding. Remember the Lord in all you do, and he will give you success. I know we've heard that many, many times. This is a little bit different. This is the Everyday Study Edition Holy Bible. The Bible that I generally use, that I keep such good care of, is still packed in one of my boxes that I haven't been able to find, so I'm relying on this. But you know, it's good to have different Bibles to hear the way it's written in different ways. So another one that I wanted to read from, Proverbs. Okay, that was Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, but there was some, I know, Psalms. I wanted to read Psalms. Oh my goodness, you'd think I was more organized. Okay, Psalms 32. I'm so sorry, guys. I know I'm still half asleep, right? Psalms 32, 8. The Lord says, I will make you wise and show you where to go. I will guide you and watch over you. How comforting is that? And that really does just show us to follow him, because he knows where we're going. We have to have our goals in mind, and then the things that we want to do, and the vision that he gives us, that vision that drives us to succeed in certain areas. Some people, they really want to succeed in business and life. Other people really want to succeed in love, relationships. Other people really want to succeed in humanitarian goals. Other people really want to excel in, there's just so many different, we're so different. We're all so created so differently, but you know the need that God put in your heart. A deep-seated need. You know, for me, it's always been humanitarian work. It's something I pick walking with him and living with him and walking his ways over anything else, and helping others. If I can do that, and I will do that until I go home, then I am the happiest person in the world. Everyone's different, you know. Some people it's missionary work. Some people it's starting a new business. Some people it's finding the love they've always wanted and needed, and having a family that they always dreamed of. But you know what? Just remember, folks, that just because we're all different doesn't mean we're wrong. Because as long as we're following him, and those visions and those feelings are coming from him, we're on the right path. When we feel like we're getting steered off in another direction, you want to turn left, but you're feeling like God's pulling you to the right, then you make sure you go right. You follow him, because there's a reason for it. Just like there was a reason that she walked into Mrs. Farmer's room. Because Mrs. Farmer's birthday was that day, and Mrs. Farmer was alone. So go the direction he calls you to, even when it feels odd or uncomfortable. Okay? I love you guys. You got this. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. I'll be thinking of you while I'm unpacking and organizing. I'll be thinking of you when I'm organizing. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.